Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. It's been 3 weeks since my last podcast. We're gonna have a bit of a cozy one today, lads. It's very stormy outside there, and it's quite cozy inside here. So I have my blanket. I don't want to put it on yet, but have your blanket, be cozy. This is just a little kind of catch up and check-in from my last video. I was gonna make a podcast like a week or two later and be like, I'm way better, it's great. And now like 3 weeks later, I'm like, oh yeah, not sure. Basically, I started a part-time job, which is awesome. I think I said that in my last podcast. But then I found out a school holiday came up, because it is with children. And I found out that I wasn't getting paid for this school holiday and that I was just supposed to sort of evaporate in the meantime. And this job is part-time, so it wasn't enough money or time anyway. So I was like having a canary because I was like, Jesus Christ, I didn't have enough money anyway before I found out I'm not getting paid for a week. So I got on to my mother and she said, would you ever come home for a week? So I'm back here in Ireland. And I'm gonna be here for Halloween, which is cool. I'm going to Cork for Halloween. Happy Halloween. Actually, I should be wearing a costume in this, really. Coincidentally, I had this hard plastic hat, which maybe I'll continue to wear for this podcast. It is a bit of a sleigh. To anyone planning to come to London without a job, I do want to say, unless you're some like stunningly well-adjusted person, the stress about money without having a job there is absolutely crippling, and it is very hard to get one. So there's a frustration in that I haven't been able to, I feel, focus on too many things outside of that, or like when I'm feeling an anxiety about something, it's too overpowering to where I can't enjoy other things or be creative either, you know, because creativity can't really come from an anxious space. So it becomes kind of the only thing in my life. So that's my hope, is just to get something steady so that I can have enough money. I'm also down to less than €1,000 now to my name, to my account. So it is very much crunch time. But I do want to talk about some positive realizations I had in the last few weeks that gave me some cheer or some sort of perspective. And to be honest, I don't really know where they came from, honestly. I can't really tell a great story of like, oh, this happened and then I realized this. It's just part of what's been going on in my head and my heart over this journey in London. What could I be with this hat on? I could be Oliver Twist at the start of Oliver Twist when he works with the Undertaker. I'm trying to use as well less filler words in my speech. I saw a TikTok of this girl who's trying to talk for 1 minute every day without filler words. And I notice it when I'm editing the podcast, and it does piss me off because I don't love it. I mean, like, if somebody's, there I go. If somebody speaks with filler words, that's fine. But I like the idea of speaking in a more kind of authoritative way, I guess, that causes people to listen. And yeah, just to, because what filler words, I mean, they're commonly used by women because they're kind of caveating what they say, in that I'm not really sure about this, so if I'm wrong, at least I caveated it, at least I gave a disclaimer through my filler words. Because women historically haven't been encouraged to speak authoritatively. So that's also why I don't want to do it. I want to just say what I'm thinking. But then that does make you kind of conscious of what you're saying at all times. So maybe I'll start this 1 minute a day thing like this girl. There's 2 major realizations I had lately, which I think were good. And honestly, I think, actually, if I think about where they came from, I think it was actually from making my last video. I think putting some of my worst fears and things I wouldn't talk about except to people very close out in such a public forum maybe encouraged me to confront them a bit more, bring them into the light a bit, and also help me to shed some shame about them, because I always think, you know, you can't really be ashamed of something if you're talking about it publicly. Whereas before I wouldn't have ever seen much merit really in kind of publicly announcing such things. But I think, yeah, anything you're not willing to talk about on a large scale, maybe you are ashamed of. And I think shame is too crippling to live with. Anyway, the first thing that I realized, I think, was that I am not fundamentally different to other people. And that might sound really obvious to a lot of people, but I think it's a belief I've had for a long time, and I think it starts as a self-protection mechanism. When you see yourself as being kind of when you know you're not fitting in with people, or when you know you don't fit into a norm in a certain space, you know, whether that be school or even college or that sort of thing, you know you're different to the other people there per se, or maybe there's just some certain thing about you that's different, like a certain priority or what have you. And that doesn't feel nice. So rather than thinking there's something wrong with you, you develop the belief, I think, just that you are fundamentally different. And that can be kind of a coping strategy at the time. But then it can go on to be quite harmful, I think, because it's actually not good to feel isolated from most people. It doesn't feel good, and it's not good for, even if it's in a superiority sense, even if you think you're different and better than most people, it's going to inevitably, it's very isolating, first of all. And I think all anybody really wants to know, there's such two very interesting human needs that I think are so interesting because they collide with each other so much. There's the need to feel like you are like other people and part of a community and that you won't be judged. I think that's a very deep human need. But then there's also a deep human need to feel yourself as an individual. And you can see both of those, most things we do in life, I think, are to satisfy one of those needs. But the belonging need is very important, I think, because yeah, just the more you get wedded to that belief, the more you see proof of it that you're not like other people, and there's only a very small cohort of people who you could get down with and who would understand you. I think also it's, to be honest, it's related to depression as well, I think, because when I would meet new people before, I would feel like I was carrying some horrible big sack around with me, you know, and that it would be obvious to them. And I felt like I would pick other people for friends that I could also sense it off, you know, that I could see it in. Because then you won't be judged if they're like you know. But then you're also like precluding a lot of people, and then there's, you know, there's points for and against aligning yourself with people who struggle with the same things as you, because, you know, not everybody might be making the same effort to improve themselves or heal. But yeah, I kind of thought that I could never be normal in a group of people who didn't suffer from these things, and that it would be immediately obvious to people that I was carrying around this thing. And part of my journey in London has kind of been realizing that that's not true, actually. And that I don't come off strange to most people, you know? And that is more in my head than anybody else's, you know, like, and that's actually been quite freeing, to know that I can meet with people who I would consider quite conventional And, you know, if I don't judge them and I'm nice to them, and I'm just myself, of course, they don't see anything strange about me, you know. And that's good, because I think, yeah, if you group yourself and people into all these different groups, and like, it's generally a self-protection thing, like I said, but it just ends up alienating you and isolating you more and convincing you that you can't have a life that these people do, and you can't have the things that these people do, and that you're just fundamentally different. And yeah, I can't really say much else about it except that it's extremely isolating. So it might help for a little while, like most coping strategies, but usually there's a point where you have to kind of put it to the side. So I guess if people are like me, it stands to reason that they struggle with the same things as me. And then that kind of leads me on to second/third realization, because it's kind of two in one. First of all, that I think, again, because I thought that my suffering was obvious to people, and my perceived flaws, I felt I had to be very upfront about them. So I would be very blunt sometimes, or probably too open on things. It might be like bad things that I was feeling, or it might just be perceptions I had about myself that I'm coming to learn other people aren't having, you know. So you might say something down about yourself, or something you believe about yourself, and it kind of takes people off guard because they weren't thinking that, you know, that was just you, but you thought it was obvious to them and that this was the truth. So I think I would probably talk too much or be too open about things that I thought were my failings or my sufferings. And I'm realizing that other people have them too, but they don't talk about them. And whether that's for better or for worse, you know, there's probably some people who could do with talking about them. And I'm not at all saying for a second that, you know, we shouldn't talk about our sadnesses or our suffering. And I do think probably a lot of society would be better if we did. And that's kind of what I was trying to do with my last video. I think sometimes what you speak does become reality as well. And I think I've come to be so careful about what I say about myself to other people. Like, I don't anymore self-deprecate at all about anything. Like, because I just think you can't be going around saying bad things about yourself, even in a joking way. It's just what I've done my entire life. And it helps, you know, it helps nobody and it hurts nobody but yourself, you know. It doesn't get you to where you want to be. So yeah, people are like me, people suffer with the same things as me. And then that brought me on to another realization, which I don't really know where this one came from, which is that there's probably out there people who don't suffer with the same things as me or struggle with the same things as me. And, you know, people who, I look at people sometimes and I go, God, they seem to find XYZ so easy. And probably some of them I'm looking at don't. But then maybe some people do. And I kind of came to that doesn't make them any better than me. I truly don't know how I came to that. But that's been a really helpful one to try and remind myself that just like we are all similar, we are all individuals, and yeah, we all have our own stories, but none of us are like fundamentally different or strange from each other. So if somebody is skating through life on something that I find really difficult, that doesn't make them fundamentally better than me. You know, it just is. You know, a lot of things in life just are. And I think I'll do a different episode about this next week, I think, because I've been thinking about it a lot lately. But I think in life and society, we could do with treating a lot more things with neutrality. This is what I'm starting to do in my own kind of self-therapeutic journey. I'm on sort of an indefinite break from any formal therapy or counselling or intervention. And I'm kind of, I guess, I've maybe progressed to a point where I can notice things in myself and then think about how I want to address them. Or I have started using ChatGPT for therapy. It is awesome. Sorry. I had an observation lately where I was thinking about therapy that a lot of what they do is just telling you how strange some of your thought patterns are, you know, or how unusual or how bad, maybe, you know. And again, that kind of leads to further the isolation for myself anyway, in the sense that like, I'm weird, I'm wrong, I don't think like other people. And of course, like that can be positive. there's a positive way of doing it. You know, if somebody has a thought pattern that is harmful to them, they don't know that, they think everybody thinks that way. And, you know, it needs to be pointed out to them. But it, like, at times it's been pointed out to me kind of like, isn't that so sad that you think that about yourself? You know, that's awful. Like, do you not have compassion for yourself there? Can you not, you know, do you deserve that? And that just like put a lot of judgment on my thoughts. And it came to further this sense that that I was doing something wrong and I was wrong. And whereas it's helped me a lot to think about things with more neutrality and just the way your brain is working. Like I read something lately that said, your brain is there to keep you alive, not happy. You know, so you don't need to listen to your brain and everything. And its main pursuit in all circumstances is survival. So it is always doing what it's going to think, what it thinks is going to cause you to survive. So to just look at my brain and thoughts and things just with a bit more neutrality and just sort of like, okay, that's happening, or that's, and just put less judgment on it. And I think we can apply that to society as well, about certain beliefs and that sort of thing, and just be like, right, okay, that person thinks that, isn't that odd? You know, can we examine that? Rather than just all the judgment we bring into everything, I think is part of why we are so polarized right now across the world. So I want to make a video next week. I'm thinking we as the left need to get our head out of our ass. But yeah, I personally put it down to growing up in Judeo-Christian traditions, in my case, you know, Irish Catholicism. And in Christianity in general, things are very much either good or bad. And there is no in between. And a lot of the time they're either really good or really bad. And that's a really hard way to go through life. And a lot of Eastern philosophies, that way of thinking will be quite foreign to them. And it was when I started meditating and listening to guided meditations that kind of came from a Buddhist route. And I don't identify as a Buddhist, but I went to a Buddhist monastery for a weekend lately and it was so fucking boring. Sorry. But I'm not one of these, you know, new agey people who's like, yeah, I'm a Buddhist, you know, which you can be, like, but I don't know, I didn't love the way it was presented, honestly, as sort of the fix-all to everything. And to me, it is just a religion, like any other religion. Anyway, but this tenet of Buddhism, which was very foreign to me when I first started meditation, and it was Deepak Chopra's meditation audios. And he started saying things like, you know, we're accepting things as they are, they're neither good nor bad. And I was like, how can things be neither good nor bad? Like, they obviously are. Like, obviously, killing people is bad. You know, lots of things that happen in the world are bad. Other things are good. And then the more I did of it, and I did a mindfulness course last year, which was about a lot of that as well, acceptance. And I came to understand that kind of Buddhist tenet that all suffering in life comes from attachment. And again, I was like, attachment? Like, I'm attached to my family because I love them, you know, and attachment is community. And what's the point of being alive if we're all just inside our bubble and sort of levitating off the ground, having a great old time? But my understanding of it now is it's kind of attachment to outcome, and it's attachment to what another person's gonna do. Because attachment to outcome, right? If I'm doing something like, let's say, moving to London, and I'm thinking either I succeed and it's good, or I fail and it's bad and I'm bad, you know, and I'm putting so much weight on the outcome of this thing when really it should be a neutral thing. It doesn't really matter either way. You know, it's about the experiences I have along the way. And it just takes a lot of fun out of everything. Like, I mean, I would have had it with my music career as well, that it's either gonna succeed or fail, and it's gonna be a complete disaster. You know, I think you understand what I'm saying, but attachment to outcome, basically you can't control the outcome of a lot of things, or you don't know how something's gonna go. And if you are, it's kind of like the journey and the destination thing, you know, that like, if you are so fixated on the outcome of something, you're not at all enjoying it as you go through it. And at the end, you have limited enough control over it. So to put all your eggs into whether it's gonna work or not is kind of fruitless. And the same goes for attachment to the actions of another person. So, you know, we hope most times in life that the people we love are going to do the things we want, but a lot of the time they won't. And like fundamentally, people are going to do what they're going to do. One of my favorite scenes in TV ever is from Fleabag. I mean, many of my favorite scenes in TV ever are from Fleabag, season 2, of course. But in season 2, she goes to a therapist, played by Fiona Shaw, and she tells her that she wants to fuck a priest, and she's really very much looking for, it's kind of parodying that thing that therapists won't tell you what to do, basically, because they can't, you know? And she's very much wanting the therapist to tell her not to do it. And she's just sort of looking at her going, yeah, okay. And Fleabag is like, well, aren't you going to tell me what to do or what not to do? And she says, you already know what you're going to do. Everybody does. And I don't think it really stuck with me too much at the time, but the more I've gone through this journey since and started understanding more of this, the more I understand that, because I think everybody does fundamentally know what they want. Like, let's say when I was in my early 20s doing corporate jobs and I fucking hated them, like, I knew that I liked music more and that I wanted to do music. I just didn't think I could. You know, I think a lot of the time if you think you have no direction and you don't know what to do, you do know what you want to do. You just are afraid that you can't have it, you know, or that you won't be good enough for it. And yeah, you know, most of the time. Same thing in small decisions or situations like that. Fleabag was always going to fuck the priest, no matter what this woman said, you know? So I bear this in mind sometimes with even my advice giving to other people. Like, I'm always happy to give people advice, you know, friends, and I've been told I'm really good at it. But past a certain point, if people keep coming to you with the same thing, you know, or even if you're in conversation about one thing and they're just laboring the point, I think you do have to pull back at a point, because again, they do know what they're going to do, probably, you know, and nothing you say is actually really going to influence it at all, you know? Yeah, that's all just going back to neutrality and detachment. And yeah, it's hard. Like, I'm not saying it's easy at all. I reached, you know, I was kind of introduced to it over the last year or so. I'm still nowhere near it when it comes to like my own life, you know, but at least it's now a concept to me that I can start to apply. I do think one good thing that's come from London is I've started to want more for myself that I didn't think I could have before. And anytime I start to want more, that's usually a really good sign of, yeah, that I think I can have it. And I think I've read, I think some people might relate to this, and I've read some, like, you know, Tumblr posts or whatever where people talk about this, but I don't think I ever really planned the rest of my life, because I didn't really think I was going to make it there, you know. And not that I actually had any plans or visions of, you know, but I was finding, for much of my life, I found kind of my worries about the future were so overpowering that I thought, oh sure, I'm probably not going to get there anyway, you know, and sure, I'll just you know, open the hatch before that has to happen. And I think yeah, I'm just coming to, all of this comes to quite a positive place where I realized that I'm not different to other people, so I can have the things that other people have and the life that other people have without, you know, being somebody else or compromising myself. I used to wish a lot that I was somebody else, especially these last few months. I can still have the life I want. I just need to believe I can have it and, you know, get the person I want and all that sort of thing. Also, I had a Hinge date earlier. It was horrendous. Oh my God. So I was going kind of full into dating, and then now I'm sworn off again. I could do a whole other episode about my thoughts of online dating from like the 4 days I dipped back into it. And very quick fire on it. The hottest people are often the horniest. Where like, you'll match with somebody hot and they'll be so horny right off the fucking stoop, and you're like, okay, like you're hot, can we just, you know, we'd probably be grand if you weren't like jumping in with this, like, you know. And it's the people that you think you're going to click with the most who don't reply, and then you're left kind of texting back with people who, you know, you don't actually have a connection with. I have seen bios of men who on Hinge you get all these prompts to reply to. I've seen prompts where this person is describing exactly me. Like, there was one guy who was like, Every single reference he made, he got it. I got it. It was like, you know, Lord of the Rings. I don't want to be wrong about Lord of the Rings extended editions. Do you prefer the hippopotamus or the rhinoceros, which is a Flight of the Conchords reference? And then he said, oh, I want a girl who, you know, tells me a story that goes off in tangents and she never follows it. Watch this podcast. It's here. The proof is in the pudding. Your wife is here. And do you think this man replied to me more than twice? No. Like, I'm here. Your wife is here. So it's crazy. One more thing I want to talk about before I finish up. I just fell down the stairs, by the way. It was really small. I fell up the stairs, actually. It's like 3 sets of stairs leading into my sitting room, and that really hurt. But anyway, I forgot in this podcast that I wanted to talk about performing as well and my relationship to it. Because I'm booking a good few gigs in London. I'm kind of working with one promoter that's offering me a lot of gigs. I've done 3 gigs so far, and they've all gone pretty well. And my goal is to gig a lot and improve my performance skills. But I also think, I'm starting to think like, I won't improve until I can enjoy it more. Like, I have 3 gigs lined up now before Christmas, which is quite a lot and which is good. But like, I feel like I'm not gonna get these great performing skills until I can kind of disengage from outcome. Like, I want now to look forward to gigs instead of being nervous for them. I think like when I've had gigs lately, I've just had a sort of a dreading attitude towards them. So I just want to think of them as less competitive and try and bring the fun back in. I don't know, it's really hard when you've kind of pushed the fun out of something through like self-criticism and competitiveness, to bring it back in. If anyone has any tips, please share them. But yeah, I don't know, I think I really need to bring that in, because I think, you know, a good gig is someone who's enjoying the gig. And sometimes I'm like, is there any point me continuing to do them? Am I going to improve that much? You know, become that much of a enlivened and boldened performer if I'm not really enjoying it yet? Or maybe it will just help me to work on other skills and the enjoyment can come. But anyway, yeah, I want to disengage from the competitive element and how good it has to be, and try and think of enjoying it again. I don't really know how, but yeah, I'm on a good path with it, I think. But I wanted to come back and say that because I already feel better about unloading about the other things I talked about in the podcast. One day I'll be a proper YouTuber and I will have a plan of what I'm going to say before I say it. I would really love if somebody in the comments was like, no, we love your rambling speech style. That would make me feel a lot better. So, and that would also show that you made it to the end. Because this is the only way that it's fun for me. If I plan it out, it's not really fun. And anyone who knows me will know this is how I speak generally. I just will monologue for possibly 30 minutes. At the moment, I've been talking for 30 minutes. And then I'll kind of get to where I want to go. And the person will be like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, that's great, I've sorted it. So thank you for being that person today. And also thanks so much to anyone who left a kind comment on my last video or reached out to me. I appreciate you very much, and I hope I can be here for you another time in your time of need. So, talk to you soon. See you next week.